off with some kind of updates at kind of macro level. I think that there's been a lot of positive write-ups, reports, research, news around tokenization recently, which is great. I think important to note that a lot of that is banks doing their own thing, tokenizing their own assets. A lot of that's private chain, but they see the benefits, cost benefits, transparency, removal of paperwork, digital versus paper, all that kind of stuff. But I think what's beneficial and interesting for our community and our projects is there's a lot more talk about AMMs. There's a lot more talk about the power of DeFi, the use case of DeFi, plugging DeFi into TradFi. And I think that's really promising. I think the best report in the last 2 months was the JP Morgan DBS Bank Monetary Authority of Singapore report about tokenization, future, etc. That was a lot of talk in there about the AMM models, which I think was really cool. People say people should build or use these AMM models for TradFi assets. There'll be a lot of value created. So that was really cool. Of course, we built the first one. So that's slightly ahead of its time in terms of, at least it's ahead of the biggest guys there. But great to see that. We also seen reports from like Binance that were, the big crypto guys saying tokenization is very, very big. I was just on a phone call to Binance Labs actually just, an hour ago. Much more interested in tokenization of real world assets than ever before. Looking to invest into the space and looking to make BNB chain a key protocol for the STO space. Avalanche is the same, pushing really hard. Hedera is pushing really hard as well. So I think overall that macro environment's looking really positive. However, there's also been a lot of really biggest guys in the space pushing it forward. What we've built is infrastructure for everybody else. So I think that never before have we had so much positive momentum and third-party validation from a research, use case, institutional space. But we've now got to get, past we've got to get all the investment groups below the biggest banks in the world kind of excited and into the space related to, tokenization and where we can go from there. I'll let Aaron talk a bit more about sort of anything that he wants to share around sort of licensing, some models and roadmap. We've been doing a lot of work to try to get the first projects prepared. I think that it's harder than we wanted just because we're one of the first. We're going to be opening up security tokens for all investors, not just accredited investors, wholesale investors, all investors. And that requires us to look at hundreds, if not thousands of deals and try to pick companies that want to tokenize some equity and make sure that they've got a good chance. Now, of course, with startups in particular, there's absolutely zero guarantee that, well, actually, the data shows that 99% of them will not work or will fail in some capacity. Now, that's a global number that's not married to any industry. It's not managed to even how you raise the money. That's just a fact. But I think that, there's a lot of Web3 companies specifically that obviously understand blockchain because they're Web3 companies that are excited by the fact of, issuing security tokens and giving real ownership to the community other than utility tokens or other than just big VCs. So I think ultimately, we're excited by that and all the development that we've done over the last couple of years, and some of the models that we've built we haven't really announced yet just because market conditions, et cetera, et cetera. So I think ultimately, we will get to a point where we'll be able to, invest into a startup or a real estate project or private equity just as easy as crypto in terms of just basic KYC and then putting in some money and a small amount of money to be able to be part of a bigger project. That's something we've been hard and heavy in working on, kind of like this whole time. I think a few other things that are important for add some value to the community. I think we've been doing really well in terms of our marketing activities. We've got a lot of sales activities that are being sharpened up behind kind of from the business team in terms of how that's going. And I think ultimately, goal is to start to launch as many projects that are of quality, in brackets. And what we've done, obviously, I think we've announced that we've been able to get sort of these licenses, which take a very long time. We've got to go, raise money to the company, build out these new products, these new revenue streams. None of that is, snap your fingers and it works. It takes time to do that, but we're hard and heavy on that. I think kind of super excited by where it's going. I think I'm not sure where we are with announcements, but we are speaking with more STO platforms about using IXSwap in terms of it becoming its AMM and market maker, and I think that's exciting as well from a product development roadmap perspective. So yeah, all guns blazing. I think hoping to get a bunch of new products launched out fairly soon, and I think more use case for IXS token. I think ultimately, from where I sit, the IXS token hasn't had any utility yet because we've been building out these platforms and trying to get as more products up. We have validated a few things that are very important, the first STO pools and a few other partnerships, and getting a few of the legal, the technical, and the actual model behind the platform sorted, which has taken some time. But then ultimately, I think that it really is a matter now of being able to launch more products and actually have use case for the token. So I'm excited personally that this would be the beginning of use case for IXS, and we can sort of build up from there. It's important for us to try to drive token value and utility, and I think that's key to some of the next moves we've made, apart from the nitty gritty of getting stuff started. But yeah, Aaron, that's kind of the major wrap ups I had for community this month. Aaron, I'll pass it over to you. You want to share anything that you think would be valuable for the team?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the team has really just been focusing on the launchpad for, I guess, the last couple of months already. We are at the final stages. The devs have completed all their work as of yesterday. So we have just we're looking to go into a smart contract audit over the next couple of days already. That's going to take a couple of days to 2 weeks maximum, as long as there are no major bugs that we find in the platform. And then once we do up the remediations from that smart contract audit, then we'll start doing the bug bounty program for the community as well. And once we've cleared that out, then we'll go ahead to launchpad official launch. But prior to that happening, we'll actually be putting up a register for interest page, and this is going to, I think I've explained this before, but this is going to be the deals that have come to us, but we have not quite decided whether we want to be tokenizing these deals. It could be for a whole bunch of reasons, whether we think that the deal might not be good enough, or we don't think that it's going to be enough demand, or the deal size might be too big. But we will be putting all these products onto our register for interest page, and that will likely come up next week. So you guys can have a look at it, play around with it. There will be some launchpad projects that will be on the register for interest page as well, and that's mainly for us to gauge interest on the demand for any of these launchpad products that are going up once we go live. So that's on the launchpad and the register for interest page. One sec. I think Undine had a bunch of questions over here. Okay, so with the amount of tokens that we're going to be listing on the launchpad to begin with, we want to be very careful about what we push onto the launchpad. We want every single deal to be fully filled and oversubscribed. So that's it. We will likely only be launching one deal every 2 weeks to a month at most. And this is to ensure there is sufficient demand in the market. This is also in line with a lot of the way a lot of IDO platforms had done this back in the last bull cycle, where they were slowly sort of gathering demand for deals, only releasing deals every 2 weeks, sort of thing, just to make sure that every deal has traction. And once we've built enough traction on the platform, then we can start looking at pushing more deals onto the primary launchpad, or we could always just shift over some of the deals that are on the register for interest page. But yeah, I guess the main point was that we won't be just shilling out any sort of deals on the launchpad. We are being very careful about it. we are not going to do oversized raises for now, at least to start off with. The range of the raises will probably be between 100 to 300,000 to start off with. This might not be the total amount for the overall raise. This might we might potentially syndicate some of these deals out to other platforms. So, for example, the deal might be $1 million, but we might be working with 3 different platforms, and we are only taking 30% of the allocation on the IXSwap Launchpad, if that makes sense. So that's sort of the plan for the IXSwap listings on the primary market once the Launchpad is up. On the secondary markets as well, we are close to finalizing another 2 listings on the platform. Hopefully, we can close that out around the same time as when, well, hopefully prior to the Launchpad being launched. So that's coming to final stages as well. With regards to I think there was a question on stablecoin staking program on IXS. We were in the middle of a discussion with a very, very big crypto lending company. We've hit a bit of a roadblock with them right now because of jurisdictional issues. It's something about them not being able to onboard Singaporean companies or something like that. So we're just ironing that out. But we are looking to onboard stablecoin products. Well, it's more of a sort of earn program that we want to promote on IXS as well, so people that have stable coins can actually deposit into these programs, and knowing that where the yields are actually coming from at the end of the day. And on top of that, what this kind of segues into is that once we have developed this earn sort of stablecoin product and us being able to tap into the smart contracts of this other platform that we're looking at right now, that actually opens the door for us to actually tap into other DeFi smart contracts and products that are out there in the market. This is very, very important, because the way that a lot of STO platforms or even IDO platforms are being run right now is that tokens are getting minted out prior to the deals happening, right? And what happens is that the tokens get sent to the individual platforms to get issued, and if there's excess, it gets sent back, and then if it sells out, then the funds will get sent manually to the issuers in the end of the day, and then there is commissions getting paid out. So it's a very manual sort of process. So what we've done for the IXSwap Launchpad contracts is that we have created 3 types of 3 ways that you can actually access, well, with 3 ways that you can actually use Launchpad. So the first way is if it's our smart contracts directly. So we control all the smart contracts, and if other people want to use the smart contracts, we can assign them an authorizer role or an admin role within the smart contracts itself. They can issue the smart contracts off their own platform, and they can fund everything directly through a platform. Once the race is done, everything will get released to the individual parties, the distributors, the issuers, and the investors for all the tokens itself. The second method is when someone else is originating a deal. So this is more in relation to a third-party product like the Earn product that we're looking at right now. We actually have developed a sort of a proxy overlay contract that we can insert into other people's smart contracts essentially right now, where they can grant us a role, and we can segregate that into multiple different roles for us to facilitate us either accessing the contract or letting other people access the contract as well. So that's one of the things that we've been pushing, and obviously the last way that we can run the deals as well is what I described before, where it's a completely manual transaction, where the issuers from other platforms or token issuers can send us the tokens, and we just hold that, and then when the investors invest through us, we send out the tokens to the investors when the round is done. So those are kind of the major sort of topics that we're looking at, major products that we're looking at right now for the IXSwap platform. Let me see what else you have. So I see another question here about our marketing plan for IXS. I hope you guys have realized that we've actually ramped up the marketing quite a fair bit on the IXSwap platform. And reception has been generally better. We've been tracking every single thing that we're doing on the IXS marketing side very, very closely now. every single tweet is tracked, every single all the content is going out, any emails that are going out are getting tracked by us in the marketing team to make sure that the content is what people actually want to see and people actually are using the calls to action links, which is either the contact form or deciding up on the IXS platform. So that is starting to come through, and we're seeing some results. That's it. We do think that we are not marketing the sort of retail licenses out enough. I think a lot of people are sort of downplaying the license that we have right now, but from what I'm aware of, there are probably less than 5 to 10 companies globally that are able to access retail clients legally, right? There are a lot of other players out there in the market that are sort of skirting the rules, and they are playing the tech game. But we are really one of the few players out there in the market right now that can offer retail trading. So what we are going to be doing is that we're going to be pushing out a lot more marketing prior to the IXS Launchpad launch on the retail licenses, spelling out to everyone what the licenses actually entail, and hopefully create some more traction and get more users to sign up on the IXS platform. Simultaneously, I'm not sure if you guys have realized this as well, but we've actually split the marketing message that has been going out on different platforms, different social media platforms, where we are using Twitter mainly for a B2C content, where we're trying to get more users, more members, community members onto the platform, and we are using LinkedIn as a B2B sort of contact, a B2B sort of reach out, because we have done a fair bit of research and we've realized that LinkedIn has been a constant application that's used in most major countries in the world. But a majority of the people that use LinkedIn it's mainly for business. So that's why we've been taking that approach, and we've been doing it for quite a while now, and we have seen some results, and we are going to continue doing this. With the ads, we've actually designed something on the website, I think in the last 2 weeks, where our website will be able to start providing ads, but for our own sort of content. Like if we have a new listing, a new primary issuance, these ads or reels will come out on the IXS website, basically just promoting any of the deals or any sort of products that we are pushing at that point in time. We also are looking into other agencies across the world right now, mainly in Asia, mainly Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, which seem like they are coming up quite quickly with their STO sort of development. And all three of these countries were actually major crypto hubs back in 2016. So we are looking into how we can actually market the IXS platforms in these regions, and also sort of use advertising platforms in these regions to actually attract users as well. So one thing which is sort of segues also into the ambassador program, which we are still beta testing right now. I think we've got a couple of members inside already that are looking at it. So all this sort of goes hand in hand, I guess, the marketing to all these other countries and along with the ambassador program, so that when we do bring in new members, and we are advertising to these countries, we do have ambassadors on the program that are able to communicate to these members if they are not able to speak English. So that's quite a few things from me. I hand it back to you, Jules.
Yeah, I think on that retail investor access point, I think that is true, what you said about the number, or let's call it the lack of groups that are able to do that. And I'd probably add that most of those groups that can do that might even sit in the banking financial institution bucket, which means that they're not going to look at sort of these assets that we're looking at. They're going to be quite some time away. They're only going to be offering, let's call it, bank products to existing bank clients, which I think probably 100% of our communities got zero interest in that, ourselves included. But yeah, I think it's a really important thing. It was pretty disheartening. I think disappointing, to say the least, that we looked at 40, 50, 60 jurisdictions for licensing. We chose the Bahamas. We applied for licenses. After that, we found out FTX's applied that slowed everything down, and then FTX committed one of the biggest frauds in history, financial history markets, which then sort of tainted. Well, first of all, it massively hurt crypto everywhere. Then it massively hurt investor sentiment, and then it certainly was a negative stain on the Bahamas, which I think is going to be a short-term stain. There's multiple times the fraud that FTX created in brackets in the Bahamas in America every year. Multiple times. America does fine. So, but the point is that we did all this super hard work to get one of these licenses, which is super valuable, and the moment we got it was in like kind of the worst environment from the macro and micro and sentiment that we've had in a long time. Out of our control. But certainly true from a factual perspective. So, as Aaron said, that there's so much value in that people can't see today. Even though people are hunting down licenses across the crypto space, and again, we've spoken to a number of very high-profile crypto / security token players globally that I won't name by brand. And retail access for security tokens is one of the top 2 or 3 agendas from some of the leading groups in the space. It's just taking time. We even saw Coinbase's chief legal representative, I guess, or chief legal officer, I think they call it, CLO, last week posting that Coinbase has applied for securities licenses in America, but the SEC won't pick up the phone yet. So, and we've spoken to Coinbase, who one of the biggest, most well-known groups in the space, and not that they think cryptos are securities, but as a different asset class, STOs are definitely on their roadmap, suffering a world of pain right now, arguing back and forth with the regulators in America, even if crypto is a security, is it a commodity, is it an STO? Yeah, but the point is that I think from a macro level, it's to some of the first things I was saying early on, that the big institutions coming for the space, essentially, what we see, we've always thought, what we believe is that, STOs are a much better way to issue and hold shares. And then there's a whole new world of assets coming. There's a whole new world of investments coming. You can do a lot more with them with the AMMs. But so ultimately, what we will see is banks and crypto companies and fintech platforms that have a captive audience of investors will want to sell their investors more things. I mean, that's the banking model is get a bunch of people to give you money as depositors, loan that money at 10 times more than you even have in your bank account, which is a huge problem happening right now, but that's a different story. But then the point that I'm making is that, and then start selling them stuff, sell them mortgages, sell them insurance, sell them, deposits, sell them wealth management products, sell. So, we still early on coming up with all these innovative products, as well as getting all the licenses ready. It'll come as we grow, that there'll be more and more distribution channels, which will mean much stronger appetite. But we're still here at the forefront trying to, solve a lot of problems and get more and more products up on IXSwap. Aaron just gave a pretty detailed update, I think, across many areas kind of the business. Gene's here. He's been hearing Shara, see these guys helping in the marketing, doing a lot of hard work. It's not so easy as well when you're dealing with, regulated products, and also the noise of blockchain and all the other crazy assets that are being developed and launched, and whether they're good or bad. There's a lot going on, but there's certainly momentum building, and we're happy to see that. And the team's kind of hard at work on a daily basis, and lots of good things coming down the pipeline. So I think that's a wrap from my side. I don't have anything else to add. I guess we just can answer some questions if we have any here. I'm on my phone here outside, so I'm trying to see if there are questions. Aaron, if you see any, feel free to chime in and share them and answer them, and we can take from there. Ooh.
I think there were a couple of miscellaneous questions. One of them was, when FTX had tokenized stocks, they had a disclaimer that it's risky and not for long-term investment. Does IXS agree with the disclaimer? I mean, look, what FTX was doing with the broker-dealer in Germany was actually safer than what some of the other platforms like Mirror Protocol and the rest of the synthetic asset platforms were doing. So what FTX was actually doing was that they were working with a German broker-dealer, and on the back end, what was happening was that FTX, say for example, they deposited $10 million with the German broker-dealer, right? So this was the collateral that they held with the German broker-dealer. Whenever someone bought an asset on FTX, they would use the funds to buy, say, an Apple stock, right? And what happens is that FTX would have been able to withdraw that whatever collateral that they had there before and replace it with the customer's collateral at the end of the day. So what FTX was doing was actually safe to some extent, and there was actually a one-to-one conversion of those stocks to the German broker-dealer. Whether or not that was actually happening on the background, I don't know, but it seemed like it was everything was above board, at least on the tokenized stock portion of what they were doing in the German broker-dealer. With IXS, what we are doing, we're not really looking at tokenized stocks. We're not focusing on tokenized stocks. We will be working with partners that are issuing tokenized stocks directly. There are already a couple of them in the market. But I would say the STOs that we are doing, it really depends on how you look at the investments, right? I mean, generally, private asset investments in the traditional market tend to last, 5 to 10 years, right? I would say that generally private assets are longer term investments. And because of the high yield, they are generally high risk products as well, unless we start offering bonds and debt products on the platform. But debt itself also has its own issues. If it's a higher debt product, there are also a lot of risk there. We did speak to someone today that's issuing US treasuries and creating a tokenized version of that as well. They were interested in listing some of these treasuries on IXS as well. So we'll probably look at putting some treasury bonds as well, since everyone is doing that. But that said, I would like to hear the community's feedback as well. What do they think about treasury bonds? Because me personally, I'm not very interested in getting 5%, 6% for a bond when all this stuff's going on in the US and they just keep printing money, and it feels like the treasury bonds are going to be worth less than they are today by the end of maturity. But yeah, I mean, I would like to hear what the community thinks as well about these sort of stable assets, US treasury assets as well.
Yeah, good points there. I actually had a chat today with Binance about tokenized stocks, and yeah, that they did that all wrong structurally. And tokenized stocks are kind of tradable, digital. Okay, yes, sure. Some non-US citizens and other people, even US citizens, might not be able to trade them for whatever different reasons, but it's not really exciting. Just like some of the assets just mentioned weren't that kind of exciting. So I think ultimately, the hunt's still on. People are tokenizing all kinds of stuff: art, real estate, equity in companies. There's a lot shaking out there. It's asset agnostic, but yeah, I think that those comments that Aaron made were pretty on point to try to answer that. Are there any other major questions that we haven't answered? We think that we should answer, I should say. I think the question on the products, like real estate, private equity, venture, typically fund structures typically come with fund managers, typically come with fund administrators, separate entities trying to keep it clean, someone watching someone. Is kind of the basic premise. One of the challenges of security tokens is a lot of those middlemen don't want to get out of the way. They're rent-seeking companies that their services can ultimately or predominantly be delivered by blockchain in terms of transparency, immutable ledgers that don't require a third party to tell two different sides of the deal that a deal's gone through because everyone's doing the deal on the blockchain. They don't want to get out of the way because that destroys their industry. So, one of the things we're doing with the Launchpad is looking for startups which don't have fund managers or fund administrators, they just have a company. This is also a new way of fundraising, a new way of doing things. Typically, startups are seed rounds, Series A, Series B, Series D, Series E, if they're successful. Different types of structures each time. Lots of side deals, special deals, all this kind of fun stuff. So also tokenizing startups is a brand new way of doing things, which we think is obviously better, but also comes with, because mental, psychological, things people have to digest because it's a different way of doing something that people have been doing the same way. But we're excited by that. I think we've been looking at a bunch of these startups, especially the Web3 ones, thinking that if you give ownership to the community, not just in a utility token, because the real equity of these protocols and companies, and it's a bit of a fallacy of Web3 that like all the ownership's in the token, that's just not true. If all the value is in the utility token only, then why is, Andreessen Horowitz and all these other VCs putting all this money into the equity side of the company? And there's the proof, right? So we're trying to convince more and more startups that it's fine to have good VCs or a VC or some VC, venture capital's VC on your investment, on your cap table, on your equity table, but you should change that, not just make it pure venture capital. You split it up and allow community to buy in much smaller shares, $1, $10, whatever. So these are huge shifts we're making in mindset and huge shifts we're making in structure, and that's why it takes time. So, but we're doing it, and this is the play. We believe in it. We think that's a better way forward. So, we'll continue to look for all these types of assets. Lots of discussions each day. We've looked at hundreds, if not thousands, of STOs. A lot of them don't make a lot of sense for a million different reasons. They're getting a lot better, but that's the game that we're in, and we're still hard at it. So, I guess that's a bit more color, products and whatnot. Well, any deals you pair with the IXS, I think, look, a lot of real world assets should not necessarily be paired with crypto because they're priced in dollars, and real estate's probably a good one. We're going to push as much use case as possible. Yes, we can use IXS. I think ultimately the end game would be every asset has a portion in IXS paired to it, like a pool. But take $100 million real estate asset, the predominant pools there should be stable coins involved because that asset is priced in US dollars. And if you put it into crypto, it could be highly volatile. It's a lot for people to digest. Same thing, try and change the whole structure of how a real estate asset is priced, i.e. IXS versus US dollar. You don't want to make that leap in one go. You got to inch your way into that. And our goal, of course, to make as much people use it, hold it, buy it, stake it, trade it as possible. So we're aligned, more than anyone in this conversation, because we're the biggest IXS holders, because we never, well, at least Aaron and I never took any cash payments for a couple of years of work. We've just held everything in tokens. So we're aligned to get that use case going, but we've also got to be realistic about what we're trying to do. So we've got to push on all the stuff. We've still got a lot of trial and error. We've still got a lot of things that we're trying that we have to push out into the marketplace and day by day try to make that more useful and more use case. But I think that's a wrap from my side. Aaron, any closing comments from you?
No, let me just, there was one more question on there about US government. Whether we're going into the America and getting retail access for them. I think we've touched on this a couple of times. I would like to get American investors on the platform. I would not want to deal with the SEC. So that's the hurdle I think we will have to face if we go into the US. Ideally, what will happen is that we will white label the IXS platform to an American broker-dealer instead and let them run it out of the US, and we just take a revenue share out of whatever they're doing in the US. I think that's the cleanest model. I think over the time at IXS, we've had a couple of different offers for people trying to do that. We're just not at that stage to launch a product in the US right now, I think, especially with all the uncertainty that's going on. Maybe when Gary Gensler gets out. seems like he's going to get kicked out of government soon. And I think we had a last question on do we have any influencers that are already on the platform? We actually have a bunch of influencers that do come in to help us retweet and tweet our stuff quite often. I would say one of our biggest influencers is actually Coach K. He's very vocal online. And the other company that's actually helping us push out more PR, more news announcements is actually DWF Labs. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about them, but they are actually our market makers for IXS. They did a PR push for us when the license announcement came out, but they're keen to do a bigger one once the launchpad is ready. So there are a few KOLs. I'm quite curious to also know from the community
there's also a bunch who invested in the project a long time ago, who we are reaching back out to and trying to get them to help focus back on the project. Often the biggest guys, the girls, supported a lot of projects. So yeah, we do have some other big names that we're trying to get back to the table that put money into the token sales. So we're going to work a bit harder on that.
Yeah. I mean, I like to hear from the community as well what they think about KOLs and influencers in this current market right now. What I see on my own Twitter feeds, I do not see anyone shilling tokens other than meme coins, I guess, in the last 1 week. But other than that, I don't really see the KOLs shilling any sort of platforms or any sort of tokens. Everyone seems to be trying to clean up their profiles right now from, I guess, the last bull market when they were just shilling all the shit coins. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what the community thinks, and if there are any sort of influences that you think that we should be approaching as well. Yeah, other than that, I think I don't really have any other comments. Jules, if you don't have any, then I think that might be a wrap if there are no more questions in the chat.
I'm good. I appreciate everyone joining. Hopefully that was helpful, and yeah, lots of good stuff in the pipeline.